right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our second workshop of our series for the government contracting. I am Crystal, and I am with SCORE, and this is a SCORE district workshop, which includes Arizona and Utah. You might be viewing from somewhere else, and it also our partners here with Apex Accelerators out of the Utah offices, and Paul is going to tell you a little bit more about them. But if you haven't heard of SCORE before, welcome. We offer so many free services. Our main one would be mentoring. We have over 10,000 volunteers nationally within our chapter who have a wide range of expertise. Obviously, today we're talking about government contracting, so you might want to seek a mentor in that area. And I will be dropping links on how you can find a mentor in the chat shortly. We offer tons of webinars and workshops like the one today. I know many of you have asked about the first session that you might have missed it. That is actually already up on our website. So I will also be sending that in the follow-up email to this one so you can watch recording one. And you'll have the second one to this as well. And then we also have lots of webinars and courses on demand. So the actual walkthroughs, like our startup roadmap that can help you from start to finish with your business, and along with other resources like templates that you can fill out. This is just some information about our Utah chapter and volunteers. We do have a live chat if you're wanting immediate help, and then you can scan this and then just learn more about how to request a mentor there. So I am going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn it over to Paula with Apex Accelerators out of Utah, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about what we're going to be learning today and about their program over there. So let me stop my sharing.
Thanks, Crystal. Let's see. So do I need to share now?
Yes.
Okay, and then I'll be happy to introduce myself and Sarah. Can you see my presentation now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. It's so nice to be here. We really appreciate SCORE giving us the opportunity to present some of our topics that we have and who we are and what we do. My name is Paula Kramer, and I'm with the Salt Lake City Metro, Summit, and Tooele County areas. I also, my background is in contracting. I was a former contracting officer for Department of Defense, and I've also worked a little bit in industry. So I've kind of been around the table. So I know many tips and tricks and what the requirements are for government contracting RFPs. So I'm hoping and excited to be able to present to you some of my tips and tricks and little bits and nuggets here and there, as well as the basic requirements for putting a request for proposal together. With me today is Sarah Ortiz. She's also a regional manager here in Utah. Sarah, would you like to say hi?
Yes, thank you, Paula. Hello, everybody. As stated, I'm Sarah Ortiz, and I'm the regional manager for Utah, Wasatch, and Juab counties. We're very excited to be here and partnering with SCORE today, and we're looking forward to learning more about RFPs from Paula.
Great. So real quickly, because I know we've got some new people here today, what I'm going to go through will be who we are, Apex, a precursor to request for how to put together a request for proposal that'll go over the types of the federal solicitations, federal purchasing thresholds, and the levels of difficulty as a result of that threshold, solicitation offers, award forms, the uniform contract format, which is used by almost every agency in the federal arena. Proposal, about the time I say that, then I'll find a different one. There's always lots of howevers in this industry. Proposal development, writing your proposal, submitting your proposal, common pitfalls, some best practices, and then we'll ask questions. And I'm also going to be leaving you with some key terminology for you to refer back to in this presentation. So I think you'll like this because it'll be a great tool for you to refer back to. So who are we? We were formerly called PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Center. And a couple couple of years ago, they changed our name to Apex, and it doesn't stand for anything. We are still who we say we are, and our mission is to help small businesses in pursuing securing government contracts. Nothing does this more pleasure than to know that we were part of your team in looking and finding and landing one of those government contracts. So we are definitely your advocates. So we provide these services in Utah at no cost. I'm hoping you can see my presentation. Can somebody confirm that?
Yes, we can see.
Oh, okay. All right. Our services, just like SCORE, these resources are great resources for you guys in getting started. I mean, there are a lot of third-party contractors out there that will and can offer you these services, but it will cost you. And so this is your tax dollars at work. Take advantage of it, and please call on us. This is our area here in the state of Utah. For those of you who are from Utah, we have Troy McLean up in Box Elder, Cache County, and Rich. Darren Cobbler has Davis, Morgan, and Weber. Myself is the Salt Lake, Summit, and Twilla. Alex is South Salt Lake. Oops. Sarah, Utah, Wasatch, and Juab. Jesse Lobato, Carbon, Daggett, and Emory. Joshua at Keene, Millard, and Paiute. And Grayson down in Beaver, Iron, and Garfield. We do have a website, and I'm leaving that with you too for you to be able to reach out to your clients. For those of you who are out of state, there's the link for you to go there, and you can find your Apex accelerator in each of your states that can help you in finding and starting your venture down the government contracting path. Here's a snapshot of the services we offer you: one-on-one counseling, the registrations, which are endless. That's your SAM.gov, getting your UEI, your CAGE, the different socioeconomic programs that are available to you. We have a bid match system that will help you. We create a profile for you, and it will find bid opportunities that are in your industries. A GSA schedule for assistance, market research, capability statements for marketing, proposal assistance. You find a solicitation that you feel is in your wheelhouse, reach back to us, and we will help go through everything we're doing today for that specific solicitation. And then we have post-award support, that WF is very important to you because that's how you get paid. So you'll have to learn how to submit an invoice, and we'll help you with that as well. We also have training. Archivology webinars are phenomenal. They're very formal, given by academia and legal attorneys. We have outreach events where you can network. These are all the things on how you're going to find opportunities and how you can learn more about government contracting. The network, the matchmaking, and our annual symposium, of course. So here's the precursor: breaking down the solicitation, navigating government regulations in the solicitations and the contracts, compliant offer, which means you're going to be responsive and responsible to the offer with reasonable pricing. Responsiveness means you answered everything they asked you to submit. Responsible means you have demonstrated that you can do what you have described to them, and they consider you to be a responsible offer, and they will be willing to invest in you in a contract. Here's the types of federal solicitations: invitation for bid, IFB. We love acronyms, so if I trick you up on an acronym, I apologize. I'm trying to stay away from them until you guys get familiar with them. So an invitation for bid is not negotiable. All they want from you is a price. A request for quote is negotiable, but they don't intend on holding any discussions. They will ask you for a technical, past performance and experience. That's pretty common. They're not usually too complex, and they're small dollars. A request for proposal, an RFP. negotiable, more complex, and it again that gets a little bit more technical. They're wanting past performance and experience as well. A sources sought is the government's way of going out and marketing. They're testing the market. They're asking, here's what we need, probably in performance wise. And we don't know what's out there. So we're giving you an opportunity to submit to this or to respond to that sources sought with what your capabilities are, what your product is. And then they'll go from there and also decide not only how much competition's out there, but in what categories like socioeconomic, whether small business can do it, which you guys are all small business by virtue of your NAICS codes that you've registered in sam.gov that Sarah talked to last week. So the sources sought is a way for you to influence how that procurement's going to go out, whether it's going to be set aside for small business, whether it's going to be service disabled, veteran owned, or women owned business, or minority owned. Those categories are there. And if not, then it goes out unrestricted, and then everybody gets to bid on it, even large business. A request for information is basically the same thing. They're having an industry day where they want to impress upon you what their needs are, and then ask for you to respond back to the request for information to help them develop that request, that scope of work, or that requirement. So I swiped this from one of our Gavology, which is the training that I talked about earlier, which is, in my mind, it just about the greatest training you can get out there from a resource that doesn't cost you anything. These classes typically cost around $85, and we give you a coupon code that waives it. So, I mean, free is, you can't ask much for about free. So this chart is going to give you, this is something that's going to be handy for you. It's explaining to you the different thresholds here that the government has to comply with on their rules and regulations. If you look off to the left, the green is beginners, and it moves up the ladder, early or intermediate, immediate, active, advanced, and experts. Doesn't really, this is a kind of a rule of thumb for the regulations for dollars, but as far as expertise, or you could be buying a product because of the volume exceed that $250,000. So it kind of, the industry does enter into this. And as you can see down on the left there, it's talking about DBE, that's Davis-Bacon Act, that's construction, $2,000, and service contract, $2,500. The reason for such low dollar thresholds is anything above that, labor laws enter into it, and the labor laws will dictate how much a contractor has to pay their people based on their industry and the category of people they'll be hiring to perform the job. And then as you climb up the ladder there, 15,000 to 25,000, we're getting into what's called simplified acquisition procedures, which is one of the easiest. I'm not going to say they're easy, but they're the easiest ones to work with. And then the $250,000 is small business set aside. Mandatory small business set aside is $250,000. And anything over that, they have to justify or write a justification as why it may be going to a large business. Could be it's a sole source, it could be, it has to be compatible with a system they already have. So there are reasons why they can go above that or below that threshold and award it to a large company. A few, but I mean, for the majority, it's $250,000. Now, rule of two, if they find two or more small businesses, women-owned, service disabled, rule of two allows them to go greater than $250,000. So that, in a nutshell, the rest of it, I'll leave it up to you. Micro purchases is where the government has hundreds and hundreds of credit card holders purchasing cards, and they can go up to $10,000 and call you up and order something. So that's kind of what's going on over there on the right-hand side of that chart. So here are the forms. These are solicitation, offer, and award forms. Each one of different agencies use them for different things. The one up there at the top is a request for quote, which is the simplified lower dollars. And then amendments, something comes out to an RFP, an IFB or RFQ, they have to amend it, then there's a form for an amendment. Now, keep in mind, if they amend something, you're going to have to acknowledge that amendment in your returned proposal or bid. The standard form 33 is the solicitation itself. Comes out in a solicitation, you submit it as an offer, and that document becomes the contract on each and every one of these. So I'm going to go to this form right here because I want to show you some tips and tricks on this form. Can you guys see this?
You'll have to stop share, Paula, and reshare for the form.
Okay. Does that work?
Nope. Let me. There you go. Now click share screen and then share the form.
That's not what I wanted to do. We're not seeing that yet.
Yeah, you can see it now.
Okay, this form right here is the most universally used form. And they will in the top of the solicitation or the form, you will see the issuing agency. I'm going to use BLM for construction. It will go down and it will tell you that it'll give you a solicitation number assigned to it, and it will give you the time and date that it's due. And then down there, midway down about 1/4 inch, you'll see all these ABCDs. Those are the sections that will apply to that, and they'll check them. Those are the sections that will apply to that particular solicitation. If it's a supply, they'll include like section D for packaging and marking. An inspection, if it's a service or fabrication, it would have section E, inspection and acceptance. Delivery or performance is going to be on all of them. When it's due, when it has to come in, it'll say desired or required. It says required, you better be able to meet the 90-day delivery. Performance will show you the place of performance for construction or where the product needs to be delivered. Contract administration information will be there. We'll go through each one of these as I go through but they'll be marked on here. And then down here below, they're going to give you discounts, days, calendar days. It's got 10, 20, 30 suggestion. Anything less than 30 days, your discount percent better be pretty high, because they're going to take your, in my opinion, and this is Paula, if you put down 2%, 20 or 2%, 30, they'll take your 2% and they won't pay you for 30 days. The volume's just too great out there, guys. Net 30, just do net 30 on offering any discounts. And then block 14 is acknowledge and you either sign the amendments and date them and send them back, or you put the amendment number in there and the date. And then when you sign this form, you have acknowledged that your bid or your proposal has incorporated what they amended. So if you do not acknowledge all the amendments, you can get tossed out. So my advice is, just before you submit your offer, you go back in and check sam.gov and make sure they have not issued any more amendments. It's always a good idea to keep checking for amendments. And then you're going to put your company name in block 15 and the title of the person that's authorized to sign. And then you're going to put your phone number and your signature over there. Now, if you do not sign them and you do not date them, you can also will be most likely tossed out. When they award it, this document will be signed and accepted by a contracting officer, and they will commit and obligate and put all the accounting information in there. So you now have a funded contract, and once you both has both signatures on it, then you've committed that you've accepted the terms and conditions of the solicitation. So let's see. Get it here. Am I back to my solicitation or my presentation again?
Go ahead and reshare the presentation.
So is that back?
Yep.
Okay, these forms pretty much all do the same thing. That 1442 is used predominantly for construction. The 1447 is also a solicitation contract, and is commonly used for negotiated acquisitions in lieu of this SF33, because you've had discussions, and they're going to want to include and renegotiate and write some new words probably in the scope of work. And that's not very common. Those are usually done on very large procurements. The SF 1449 is for standard commercial off-the-shelf, what they call COTS items that are typically sold in volume to the private sector. So those are the common forms, and they're all linked to the forms, so you can look at them and review them. So here's the uniform contract format, and this is the federal acquisition regulations that govern them. One has 14.202, the other one has 15.201. Just a little background information. 1442 is your request for quotes, requests for proposals are under the FAR 15, so they're more complicated. 14's not as complicated as the 15's. However, the uniform contract format really doesn't have much difference. Here's the solicitation, like it showed on that first form. It has 4 parts, and under those parts are the sections that are identifying the various topics that you have to respond, or the information you need to be aware of and bid on. So real quickly, in part 1, section A is the form, whether it's the SF 1449 or the SF 33, it will be the contractual documents been signed. Section B is your pricing, and it'll have the description of the supplies or the services, a brief description, just enough for you to be able to go in and put your unit price and your extended price. Now, on your unit price and extended price, another little tip, unit price prevails. If you make a mistake in the calculations, they'll go back to the unit price and correct it. Section C is your description, your specifications to a product or a part number. Statement of work is going to be like a service, and it'll describe it, and it is in section C. However, in most cases, the scope of work is usually so large, they make it an attachment. So it's your contract document, as you can see, is starting to grow. Your packaging and marking will be there in section D, and that again is usually associated with a product or a commodity that you are shipping. And they typically use Mill Standard 129, which is standard commercial practice. But if you're fabricating something or it's going out of country, you're going to have some stronger and more stringent specifications to go to on those. In part 1, you're going to have E is going to be your inspection and acceptance. And that's going to tell you if it's going to be FOB destination or FOB origin. They could come to your plant to inspect them before they let you ship them. Or it could be acceptance upon delivery, and that's FOB destination. And also keep in mind in FOB origin, and it'll call it out in the solicitation, FOB origin or FOB destination means that if it says destination, you include the price of shipping in your price. If it says origin, you get to bill that separately and not included in your pricing. That's important to know. Okay, section G is your contract administration. Who's going to be an administrator? Could be a different agency that put the solicitation out, and another agency that's going to administer it. So again, that's something to keep in mind with regards to your bidding your G&A on whether it's going to affect it. Section H is your special contract requirements. And that's something, all these clauses and provisions you need to get familiar with because you're signing the contract. Section I are all the clauses, contract clauses and provisions. They're pages and pages. A lot of them are in by reference. And the majority of them, we can help you understand which ones to focus on that are very important. You're subject to them all, but there are some that we like to point out to you to make sure you're aware when you're signing a contract that this is you're subject to it. Section J is one section is usually just going to be a one-pager, but it lists all the attachments and how many pages each attachment is so that you know that you have the entire solicitation package. So that's what the section J will do for you. Here, now we're getting into the really important stuff. Section K are your representations, certifications, and other statements of your bidder. When you registered in sound.gov, you filled out that 40 minutes worth of fill in the blanks and yes or no's. That's your reps and certifications. And you have to have those before they'll even accept an offer. So you're allowed to just say my reps and certs are on file in sam.gov, or you can fill out the 50 pages. The problem with that is you could be contradicting what you have on file in SAM. So give that a thought. It does allow you not to have to send them all in again, just by checking one block in the reps and certs. Section L are your instructions and the conditions and the notices to the bidder that the proposal preparation instructions. This section could be, there's no limitation, or it will come out and say that you have to have 8 by 10 pages. It has to be in font size 10 or 12, and even what font it is, how many pages you're allowed in, and what to submit with your proposal. Now, if you were to, it's typical to see them put in, you're allowed 10 pages for your technical proposals, 3 pages for a past performance, and other pages for what it's going to call out for in section L. If you submit 20, if it says you can submit 20 pages and you've typed up or getting ready to send in 22, when they receive it, they will pull page 21 and 22 out of your proposal. So keep that in mind when you're writing your proposals. Section M is your evaluation factors. This is the answer to the questions to what you're submitting in section L. They're telling you what they're going to look at and how they're going to evaluate everything you're submitted in your technical proposal, your past performance, your pricing. The answer to the question is in section M. So in proposal development, read the entire RFP. And you can't start too soon on these. In fact, sometimes you'll see pre-solicitation notices. Read everything you can find out on that before because you're going to make a bid, no bid assessment here, as well as responding to it. Conduct a quick glance review. Look at it, and you're going to have you'll start developing some standard practices. The attachments are as valuable, if not more, because that's what they're asking you for in those attachments. Usually they are what they want you to do or what they want you to provide. Have a clear understanding of the requirements. Review all the clauses, because it could be a base year with 4 option years for a total of 5. You need to know if it is. You need to know how frequently, when they're going to notify you if they're going to exercise an option. because it overlaps. It could overlap with existing work. So it's part of capacity planning. The submission instructions will be there. Consider these. Here's a few to consider in your bid, no bid assessment. Can I be competitive? Am I bidding on something that's outside my geographic area that's going to create me a lot of travel or shipping? Can you meet the requirements, or am I going to have to hire a supplier or a subcontractor? And can I invest in this and respond to the proposal or the bid or the quote timely? You have to be there. It has to be there by the date and time stated in the solicitation. If it arrives 1 minute after, they won't accept it. Remember, ultimately, you are the contractor and you are responsible for delivery and performance. So pick your partners very well, your subs and your suppliers, because COVID was a perfect example on that. A lot of suppliers could not deliver as a result of COVID. So you have to account for that, because at the end of the day, it's your name on that contract. Compliance matrix. Now, some clients, I'll ask them to create a compliance matrix where they're going to go and gather everything. Once they're invested in this, a client matrix, you want to capture the requirements by sections. You want to include the evaluation criteria in your if you're not understanding what a compliance matrix is. This is the document you're going to use to help develop your technical, your past performance, your quality, whatever they're calling for in the solicitation. Technical is the approach. Same thing, even if it's in construction, a large project, you're going to explain to them how you plan on doing it to stay timely. You're going to provide a single central point for everyone on your team, and it could be you, or it could be members of your company. That one document that's going to be the single central document that you all use, so everybody's on the same path. So checklists for responses and reviews. Writing and submitting a proposal. Here's how you're going to do a lot of those things I talked about. You're going to have to start early on these. Be clear on be clear on what's required. So don't assume anything. If they haven't asked you, if you've got questions that you don't see in that solicitation, at this point, once it's released, the only way you can get answers is by submitting them in writing. They will not answer your calls. They will ask you to give everything in writing. However, if there is a site walk, you get a lot of nuggets at those site walks. So the site walks where you go at a construction site, and you go they'll have a contracting officer's representative there, and they'll walk you through the project and what their inspections are. If you find anything that is not matching the solicitation, then you go back and you advise them in writing what there seems to be an issue. So that's significant and important, especially when you're doing services and construction. So I use Control Find or a command, and I do a quick search and find of the following words. You're going to look for will. The government will, contractor shall. That's just the way it is. So you're going to look for will and shall. You're going to look for the words must or required or mandatory. And your searches are going to help you create that compliance matrix. And if you're not going to go out that far to do a compliance matrix, at least know that I have those highlighted words I better answer in my proposal on how I'm going to approach them. You want to get a good PDF editing software and use those keywords to search and highlight. Do not assume your subcontractors have read the RFP requirement the same way you did. Make sure whoever you're partnering with, supplier, subcontractor, you're all on the same sheet of music there. And if there's any doubt, go back in writing and ask the questions. One other thing I will say, because as a former contracting officer, I've seen this all the time. I worked with engineers all the time. And an engineer would put out a scope of work and they thought they had covered everything. Do not bid on anything it is not in the solicitation. If it's not there, don't bid it. You may think they need it or know they need it, but you either advise them so they can fix it or don't bid it. But you run the risk of somebody else not knowing what they're doing, and it could possibly lose it. So you have to never bid more than they're asking for. Solicit interest and questions from your team early. Be mindful of questions and deadlines. Email the contract specialist with those questions. Again, that bid, no bid, you might get into it and find out, you know what? This is not for me today, but maybe I need to go look and see who the interested vendors are and team and be part of theirs. And there is a way in in sam.gov to go find out who is an interested vendor. Many of them list their names in there. And at the sidewalks, that's another place to find subcontracting. If it's a go, leverage all resources at your disposal to begin working on the response. Watch for changes. Those are the amendments I was talking about. Closely monitor your emails and revisit the website to look for any changes. Quick glance. This goes back to your bid, no bid, and if they're in my wheelhouse, the response date. You may have just gone into SAM and realized there's something due next week. You have to be realistic. Can you respond to the date and time? Deadline for questions, the site visit. Is that make code that it's being advertised in my SAM profile? You right off the bat, if it's a set aside and you don't fit that set aside, your only other alternative is to team or subcontract with someone that does meet that set aside type. The project size, the magnitude of a project could be outside your wheelhouse. Period of performance, yeah, again, it goes to capacity planning. What you've already got on your table, can you answer it and can you perform it? Delivery dates and period of performance. On delivery dates, this could be on a canned tuna fish or an exhaust pipe or something where that you're sending them in. They could give you a preferred date and a required date, or a desired, not required date. So you can go in and bid it at this price. And then if you hit in their desired, you can say another price. That may, because you got to remember, delivery is going to go to what they're asking for. And that also affects price. Place of performance is where it's going to be built, or where it's going to be delivered, or where the service is going to be performed. And again, whether it's a request for proposal or an invitation for bid or a request for quote, the invitation for bid, again, you don't see them very often, but all I want is your bottom line price. Contract types it could be a firm fixed price, which is just one and done. A cost plus means they want you to, you can get a percentage over and above your costs. Cost reimbursables, those are very high and very complicated contracts or solicitations. Scope of work, all or none. If you're buying products in the medical field for some of the hospitals, the government hospitals and stuff, I see this a lot of time, brand name or equal, and I see all or none. And they're just telling you, you got to bid on all the contract line items or don't bid at all. And yeah, they are discriminators, but on the other end, they're administrators and they have millions and millions of contracts. It could be a multi-year contract. That's the base year with options. And the evaluation criteria that goes into those multi-year contracts. The longest contract is most likely to be is 5 years. I've seen some that are longer than 5 years, but they're usually utilities. What is the agency's view on teaming partners? You might want to get a flavor for that if you have an opportunity up front to see if that's going to be a no-go, a no-go. But sometimes they are not keen on teaming. This is don't go it alone. Engage internal and external supports early. Leverage your Apex accelerators. Now there's a typo. Ask for at least 2 meetings from us and get on the calendar early. Have initial discussions. We'll go through the solicitation with you, and then we'll go through, we'll look at your draft proposal. We'll give you some recommendations on language. Sometimes it depends whether it's the Air Force or the Army or BLM. So we get kind of used to a little bit of a flair that they like. So engage us early. Work with the other government-funded resources that can help provide this. SCORE is awesome. You guys have got a beautiful resource there with thousands of volunteers. The Women's Business Center is a good source. The Small Business Development Center also. These groups are really good. If you've got access to them, take advantage of it. Invest in the support. There are creditable third-party companies out there that you can hire to write your proposals and review them and the compliance checklists and formatting. So they are out there. We've been known to make recommendations. We do not endorse any of them. But we do know some maybe in the geographic area that we can make recommendations on, but we don't endorse third parties. Your labor rates are something you're going to have to get familiar with. And there are other things unique to maybe your industry. Engage government insiders, which are on the government side. I'll use Hill Air Force Base. They have a small business office. You folks in Arizona and Colorado, you have the different agencies there that you can call upon and engage those people too. And as early as you can. You can even go to them to look for opportunities or get a flavor for what's coming down the pipeline. And we do have outreach events for you to look for those too. Leverage other contractors' potential teaming. It's always nice to start out as a subcontractor and let the prime do the heavy lifting. So that is one way you may want to go about if you're a new startup. Writing your proposal, make sure you provide all the documents, check all the boxes, use the prescribed format, including results from pricing and cost analysis. Price is the bottom line. Cost analysis is all the costs that get to the price. So a cost analysis, they're going to get down and find out your G&As, your profit, your overhead, your cost for supplies, any travel expenses. That's what's going to be in your cost analysis. System adequacy letter, that could be I'm really not sure. I've never seen very many system adequacy letters. Disclosure of your profit, your labor categories at associated hours. If it's a large contract, they want to talk. They're not putting you through this without wanting to work amicably on some categories. But they'll come back with their clarifications on what they would like to discuss with you. A final review is if formatted correctly, go back. I mean, sometimes you need to maybe step back and have somebody else with clear eyes look back and see if they could see something might be missing. Is it formatted correctly? Is the bid organized and easy to follow? If you've got the government's going to have teams, when I say teams, it could be 1 person or 2 person or 5 person on these teams. One group's going to look at price and the other group's going to look at your technical proposal. And then in addition, another person may look at past performance. If they're sitting down and they're reading section L and M, and believe you me, more times than not, they don't want to be there anymore than to do this. It's painful, but they got to do a good job and they got to give you a good opportunity. So they're going to look at section L and they're going to look at section M and they're going to look at your proposal. If it is and it's organized and easy to follow, that's impressive. I'll leave it at that. Is the solution, what you're proposing, is your solution plausible? Is it, you know, remember, you're not marketing here, but yet at the same time, you're the experts. Is my approach to satisfying this requirement within the timeline they're giving me plausible? Have you demonstrated your ability to perform in your response? In other words, your past performance. Is it relevant, your past performance, to the project you are bidding on? Are you proposing a reasonable price? They have government estimates. And so unless you can respond to why they're so far out of whack, and the reason they're getting competition is they're looking for that zone of competition. So that's how they determine sometimes fair and reasonable is based on competition. And they have independent government estimates as well. Submitting your proposal, follow the submission protocol in the RFP. Test your online access several days prior to the submission. Now, if it's coming out of SAM, then they're federal. They're basically giving you the name or the email and the person you wanted to send them to. But PII is the procurement system that's being used now. I'm finding out they have a portal now. So be able to allow for the time, make sure if that's the case on that solicitation, that you get registered in it timely, so that, and then you can test it to make sure that when you get ready, all that time and effort you've put into it, you can get it into the system easily. Verify the email size, any restraints in what you can send in, and that's what these new systems, these portals they're using. Prepare a receipt for submission form so that you have something that shows it went through and confirmed. Here's some common pitfalls. Not fully answering the call on the RFP, overselling yourself. Stick to the things that support the RFP. Remember, you're limited on your pages, including links to your proposal. The CO or the contracting officer or their staff are not going to, I'm telling you this is experience, are not going to visit links. You've got to be able to demonstrate it in proposals, big proposals. Unless they ask you for it, they're not going to want links. Make reference to the response to another party in your bid. Say you've answered something in your technical proposal in one section, and the same response is relevant to another part of it. Don't send them on a wild goose chase. Just repeat it again. It's that use and ease of responding and reviewing. Using multiple tones and styles throughout. Now you've got teams working together, and one person might write in a different way than another. So you've got to go back and read it so that it flows and it isn't choppy and unaligned. It could cause confusion during the evaluation, and also send a message that you work in silos and not as one. Not allowing time for multiple reviews. That's always a hard thing to do, because sometimes we get your draft solicitations at the midnight hour, and only for you to come to find out next Thursday in the state of Utah is a state holiday and we're not there. Those are things you just need to account for. And not adhering to the compliance matrix. If you're brave enough to go out and feel savvy enough to build a compliance matrix, they're wonderful. They're really good. They keep you on track. Not signing or dating and acknowledging the amendments. That's a big deal. And it's such an easy thing to overlook and such an easy thing to make sure you do. Wait until the due date and time to submit. Unexpected delays happen all the time, and they will disqualify you, even if it's a minute late. I've seen that a lot in COVID. Everybody was bidding on face masks, and they just literally just cut them off at a certain time and date. It was pretty complicated. Best practices. This here limitation on subcontracting is if your procurement is set aside in any one of the socioeconomic categories, or in just being a small business, you're a prime contractor that's a large business is limited on, they have to perform a certain percentage of the work. So you as a small business, there's two folds here. You as a small business help those large contractors satisfy their small business subcontracting plans. In services, it's 50% of the labor. Supplies, the same thing. However, under the non-manufacturing rule, it gets a little sticky. So talk to your Apex specialist or your score specialist with regards to non-manufacturing rules. General construction, 85% has to be performed by the general contractor. Specialty trades at 75%. Now, say you're a service disabled veteran, you're building on a construction project, and it was set aside. You can now hire a subcontractor or a supplier that is a service disabled veteran owned, and that can help you satisfy that requirement. It's called similarly situated entity. Same thing with women owned. You can hire subcontractors that help you meet that requirement as you performing that percentage of the work. Similarly situated entity has not been around very long, and some people like me trip over it, the words. So those are, you can use that in twofold. One, you have to be aware of it for you as a prime, but you can also be aware of it as you being able to help satisfy whoever the prime is going to be. That makes you attractive if you happen to hold any of those socioeconomic categories. That is the only, what I would call value added in helping on a subcontracting plan. But you also have to bring the value added in your skills or your product or your service. Don't depend completely on those categories in getting you a contract. You won't do very good if you don't realize that in government contracting. The debrief afterwards, receipt of notification of award. You have 3 days after you submitted a bid and you've been notified that you may not have been a successful contractor. You've got 3 days to go back and ask to be debriefed to find out what I could have done better. And I also tell my companies that win it, go back and ask for a debrief. You need to find out what you did good so you can do it again. So if you've worked hard on a solicitation or on a proposal, remember debriefing 3 days after receipt of award who got it. And always, I would go back if you want to improve, find out what you did wrong and or what you could have done better. You're not going to find out anything about any other competitors, just your own bid. And protests. There's different kinds of protests, but if you protest to the agency or GAO after notification of the size standard, say it was set aside for small business, they have to notify you of who the apparent low bidder is. If you feel that you're bidding on somebody that's not in that category or in that size standard, you can go back and contest it. You have 5 days to do it in, or 10 days after award. Just be aware of those. Okay, best practice, designate best practices. My screen's not showing very good. Designate a proposal coordinator. Update the compliance matrix for any amendments. Do not count on extensions. Math errors, again, that goes back to unit price prevails. And it's always nice to have somebody else check your numbers. Don't wait until the last minute. Ensure your firm is registered in SAM and active and able to submit on the web. Submit by the time and the date before it's due is always a good idea. And be aware of any special handling and carrier instructions they may have put in that proposal, the solicitation. You can always do screenshots for confirmation, email delivery, read receipts, hand carry signatures. I do not see hand carries allowed very much anymore. So I also stole this from one of the groups that we work with. Their name's Left Brain Pro. And honestly, this is one of the best little tips. Stop telling your story and start telling the story the RFP is requesting from you. This is what I went to, is by saying, don't bid and price more than the solicitation asks for. So if you have any questions.
Paula, did you want to pull up the Q&A and see which ones we'll be able to answer?
Sure. Sarah, do you want to grab some of those questions, or let's see, Q&As? There's 9 of them there.
Yeah, Paula, if you'd like, I can read some of these out with the last few minutes we have remaining.
Okay.
Okay, let's start with Alice Stevens' question. Are the smaller under 25,000 contracts for good delivery only? I can't think of any service contracts that can be smaller than $25,000.
Yeah, those $25,000 and under can be anything. They can be a small construction project at $2,000. They're not typically 25,000 and greater is all advertised on sam.gov. Very seldom do we see anything. They're not required to post anything under 25,000. So when you find these opportunities out there that are under, those are kind of low-hanging fruit, if you will. They're not necessarily just for goods. They could be a service project. It could be repairs. It could be fabricating something. So no, they're not limited to 25,000 to just goods.
Fantastic. Next question from DP Hooks. Are these forms given to the vendor or provided by the vendor?
Say that again.
Are these forms given to the vendor or provided by the vendor?
So that was from your list of forms that you had. Yeah.
Yeah, those forms are blank forms. When you see them, they're going to be in the form of a solicitation or an offer, request for bid or proposal or invitation for bid. It's the form that they will use to advertise it. And then it will be the same. You use that form and all the pages that come with it and attachments. You don't have to submit the attachments back, but you have to take those into consideration. If they want you to submit the certs and reps, you can also send the certs and reps. But you also have the latitude of just saying, mine are on file, and then check the little box, which will be on one page, and just send that one page back instead of that 10 or 15 pages.
All right, next question. What do you mean by net 30 in discounts?
Okay, net 30 discount means, say you have a job that is for 12 months and it's bid out in months. So you want to invoice for January. You're going to submit that invoice, and you can say, if you pay me in 2 days, 2%, 10, you can take 10% discount off my invoice. Net 30 means I'm not offering you a discount, just pay me.
Fantastic. Next question regarding response time. Once you submit RFPs, what is the typical response time from the government to inform you if the bid is won or not won?
There are a few exceptions, but typically they will put out a request for proposal with a 30-day window. You've got from the date it was issued or released and 30 days beyond that. Sometimes if they recognize they could be complicated, they may give you 45 days. If it's urgent and compelling, they could make it 10 days, 14 days, but it's typically 30 days from the date of it was issued.
All right, next question on SBA certifications. I heard that having SBA or WSBA certifications help in winning a bid. Do you think it's necessary to have these certifications, and are they still accepting new certification applications currently?
Do you want to take that one, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm happy to. It's definitely helpful to have a certification through SBA, but it's by no means necessary. And it's also shouldn't be the only advantage your company has. You want to make sure that you have an established business, that you're familiar with the contracting. And this is sort of a bonus to your company by having an SBA certification. I think you're referring to the WOSB certification, Woman-Owned Small Business. What's great about these SBA certifications is they open the door for certain set-asides. So for WOSB, for example, there's a 5% set aside from the federal government to women-owned small businesses. If you're veteran-owned, if you're located in a hub zone, if you're service disabled or economically disadvantaged, there are all sorts of different set-asides that you can apply for. And then regarding if they're still accepting new certifications currently, they are until August 1st. Then the SBA is doing a systems revamp. Should take about a month or two. They'll have updates posted on their website. But if you do want to pursue a certification, I would recommend getting it in before that August 1st deadline, or just waiting for the system to come back up in a few months.
With regards to the WOSB, I'll also say that there are certain NAIC codes that SBA has asked agencies to set them aside. They've done research on them. I think IT is one of them, and they have done research and they have found out that there's a lot of competition in some of these areas. So they are encouraging the agencies to set them aside as WOSBs. And so if you happen to be I'm going to use Hill Air Force Base because they're just up the road, and the agency knows that there's adequate, and the fact that SBA is asking for it holds a lot of credibility with the fact that they will most likely be strongly encouraged to set them aside. So that does give you an advantage.
All right, next question. What are the starting and ending months of a new fiscal year for government contracting?
October 1st, beginning, and the ending is the end of September.
Fantastic. Next question. For the uniform contract format, should all sections be included in one document? And what is the preferred document format for submissions? Word, PowerPoint, etc.
That is the format. When you get that document on the very first page, it has like a little index on it and it'll be checked. These are part of the solicitation and it's already set in the format.
Fantastic. We are running short on time, so I'm just going to quickly go through some of these next ones. Regarding partnerships, you briefly mentioned that if the set aside doesn't apply to you, you will need to team with somebody that does. Can you expand a bit?
Yes, if it happens to be like a service disabled veteran owned and it's coming out of the VA, because I will tell you about 99.9% of all procurements for the Veterans Administrations are going to be service disabled veteran owned companies. You won't, if you're not one, you can't bid on them. So don't waste your time and energy on those. However, if you have a niche work that you can work with a service disabled veteran owned company that is eligible and you're familiar with, then you want to maybe introduce yourself to them and be part of their subcontractor or supplier. If it is a site walk involved in it, we're talking construction or a service, mostly construction. You can go to the site walk, you take your capability statement with you, your business card, and you network with them. Or if they happen to have an industry day on a very large project, because you could be part of that team. If you're concrete, if you are windows or framing or painting or any of those that would be part of that. This is, yes, a lot of construction companies have their teams already, but not necessarily everything. So you just have to embed yourself into it, these different things. Outreach events, go to them, take that information with you. This is how you're going to find out how you can be part of a team for a certain agency. We also can do things where we can do some data diving to find out who's buying what I sell, like Sarah told that last week. We can find out what those agencies are, and we can help you to begin with. And then I'm telling you, you can be going down some rabbit holes all day long, and it's fun trying to find out who's buying what I sell and then networking with them. It's kind of like a board game.
Fantastic. Thank you. Next question. When it comes to support in this process, is there a list of contracting officers' information to engage with them?
They usually will have what's called an advanced briefing to industry. And they post these on sam.gov. And if you ever can find one in your area, you want to go to an APBI. That's their forecast. And you can go there and find out directly with the contracting officers who currently is performing that service or providing that product, and when they anticipate the next one to go out.
All right, next question. How does a new company without income or past performance increase chances without having yet won the opportunity to fulfill the contract?
Now, if I understand you right, can you read that again, Sarah?
Yeah, so how does a new company without income or past performance increase chances without having yet won the opportunity to fulfill the contract?
Subcontracting was the only thing I can lead you to. That's where a prime can be the heavy lifter. They may, if you've got something they want or a value, they could be your finance person. They could be your give me a bid and we'll put you part of our group kind of thing. Without knowing your industry, it's kind of hard to put a pulse on that one. Loans, we don't do loans. SCORE may have an answer for you there. I don't think they do loans, but any of us can point you in the direction of maybe financial institutes, but we're not lenders, we're not grantors.
All right, next question. We'll take a few more as we're coming to the top of the hour. So what is the approved source list and where do I find it?
An approved source list, I've not, the only way I know of an approved source list would be if you're working with a defense contractor and they do some pre-approvals and get on their preferred list. And we do have outreach events, and I think SCORE does too, where you can get introduced to something like the Northrop Grumman. And of course, Northrop Grumman is huge. It depends on what departments you're talking about. But any of those kind of things that fit in your industry, you need to go there, and that's where you're going to market yourself. Capability statements, business cards, elevator pitches, past performance is all in all of those. A capability statement is nothing short of a company resume, telling who you are, who you've worked with, what you do, what your differentiators are. See your Apex regional managers.
Okay, Paula, would you like to take any additional questions? We still have a few left in the chat, although we are going a little over time as well.
I know I see a lot of your questions there. You can, our contact information is on the presentation. Feel free to reach back to myself or Sarah. These charts will be going out to the attendees, right, Crystal?
Yes, so everyone will get the presentation and the recording.
Okay. And we thank you for taking time to meet with us today and let us tell our story and to hear back from you guys. It helps us to understand more what your needs are, and so we can be better prepared to answer your questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paula, and thank you everyone for joining us. Again, you will receive the presentation and recording. Please reach out to Paula or Sarah or your Apex person for your area, Arizona or wherever you're located. And we will catch you next Thursday for our wrap up. We're going to go over some lessons learned and some compliance. So we'll have some more time for Q&A during that as well. Please reach out for a SCORE mentor. We have tons that have experience in government contracting as well and can also help you answer those questions. So thank you again, Paula and Sarah, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.